it was like somebody wrote the script and I knew how to play that part. But when you do it on your own, there is no script and you have to keep changing it because you don't know what you're doing. And there's no mission statement and there's no role to fit into. And then what you're left with is just you. And then you're like, oh man, like who am I? Because it's easy to play a role. That's why they call these jobs roles. But when you're on your own, you're defining your own role. And it's an uphill battle. It's full of pain and rejection, and it's different twists and turns where you always realize you're wrong, and you're going to get humbled nonstop.
Welcome back to Rise Plus Rebel, the space where we talk about identity, transformation, creativity, courage, and the moments that shape who we are becoming. Today's guest is Andrew Ginsberg. He's a stand-up comedian, podcaster, performer, and someone I first met in a completely different chapter of life, the corporate world. At the time, I was a marketing coordinator and Andrew was a marketing manager. We both worked at an ed tech company where we were in different roles, but we're in the same office space. And I always remember Andrew as one of those people who could shift the energy in the room immediately. Today, Andrew is a New York City stand-up comedian and podcaster whose work explores identity, self, character, voice, and the strange, funny, uncomfortable parts of being human. He has performed throughout New York City, built his presence through live shows and online platforms. Today, we're talking about comedy, ego, sobriety, masculinity, public failure, creativity, identity, and what it means for a man to unbecome who the world told him to be and find the real person underneath. Andrew, welcome to Rise Plus Rebel.
Thanks for having me on your podcast. Hope things are good out in wherever you live. That's incredible. I appreciate that warm intro.
Yeah.
Great to be here. Excited to dive into these topics. I appreciate your thoughtfulness. I remember you fondly as well. Great times we had back in corporate life in San Francisco. We'll never forget it.
I mean, that was kind of like wasn't that like the catalyst for you on embarking comedy in San Francisco?
For sure, it helped because I guess during that time, I always reflect on that time as a time where I had more than ever had really drank the Kool-Aid. When I look back on that time period, we were both working at this company, and I actually that was like the center of my entire world, was just everything going on in that company. I really, really believed with all my heart that all that mattered was like the company's financial outcomes and making sure I drove the business forward. And I used to work like at night, and then I'd go into the office by myself on the weekends and work all weekend. And, I remember like that was a time in my life where I had just was totally bought in on being a drone to a corporation, and it made me feel a lot of purpose. And it was a lot of good times, actually. I wouldn't take back any of that, but it was during that time where I felt like, wow, maybe there's maybe I'm actually a bit unfulfilled and not living up to what I'm meant to do on earth, because it's very easy to fall into a situation where you're doing something that feels good and everybody's telling you you're really good at it, and you're getting your manager saying you're incredible, you're an incredible hire, and look, you did all these great things, and all that positive reinforcement makes you think like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But there was a rumbling underneath that was like, this, I don't know if this is it. And in that way, it was a catalyst to change, because I was like, I don't know if this is how I can see spending the rest of my life. I guess that was the first time I had that thought. But I do want to say I look back on those times like fondly, though. It was just it was kind of like the beginning of a unraveling of like an onion,
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look back at the corporate version of yourself versus the comedian version of yourself now, what parts have you changed and which parts remained?
Well, I think what made me such a good corporate person in the first place was that I was always kind of myself in some way, like at work. And so like those qualities that I think I pride myself on, like, which I appreciate that you mentioned, and I'm not trying to like brag or anything here, but I always saw myself as being like a people person and extroverted and able to communicate with lots of different kinds of people. That kind of stuff will take you really far in a corporate world, especially in a place where you're doing customer interactions or sales or anything like that. That stuff was always innate to me. I think that sort of communication is really hard for most people. It's not something that comes naturally. For me, it comes naturally. That, more so than having any skills, like at work, I could excel because I'm able to speak and just talk about things in a way where it sounds like everything's going great. Whereas most people struggle to advocate for themselves. So in that sense, like my skills are the same, and who I am is the same. But what's unraveled is I really think it's just been a journey to peel away the layers of what makes you have a sense of when you're in a sort of environment where work is what's telling you, good job, keep going, you're amazing, you hit these benchmarks. That's really just an external reinforcement from this situation that you're in. As I transition into becoming a comedian and or just being a person on their own in the world, you learn to find your sense of self-satisfaction from within. It doesn't come from anywhere else. Because oftentimes in this framework, you're failing all the time. You're very rarely winning, doing things and then nothing's happening. No one's telling you good job. No one even really cares. And you're kind of on your own. And in that sense, you get a better sense of like, why you get out of bed in the morning and what makes you who you are, because it's all on you. And you realize that your sense of ego and identity and what you're doing in the world really revolves around the output of what you do every day versus companies saying like, yeah, you hit all your objectives. That's incredible. It's like, okay, well, now I have no objectives. Like my objective is to just put something into the world every day, even if people don't like it. And that's kind of, I think that's the main shift. That's helped me find my voice and myself because now I'm kind of powered on my own sense of, now everything I do, I try to do it from an honest place for me. And it doesn't really matter ultimately what anybody thinks. So it's like a disillusion of the ego, but it's hard to not care what anybody thinks, and it's hard to not get validation from people.
You're telling me, but yeah, you described, even though you shared this from the comedian perspective, you really described an entrepreneurial mindset and experience as well,
Totally.
because you can create and set these objectives for yourselves and do your best, whoever you are, entrepreneur, creative, artist, comedian, you can do your best to hit these objectives. And you have to also have some form of inner peace within to work towards that goal, because I've also met people who set the goal and they just don't show up. So
Hmm.
learning how to navigate through that is a lot
Yeah,
of work.
it is entrepreneurial, and that's the thing with all entrepreneurs is they have their vision and they're just it's like anything else. So you're just chipping away towards the vision. You believe that it's going to happen. You have to have faith, some level of faith that you're not delusional and you're doing the what you think you should be doing, and you're following that sort of instinctual gut feeling that this is the right call, even when you're constantly failing. To me, a lot of it is like at work. If you want it, much easier to have a job and just kind of like do your quarterly like this is what you've accomplished and yeah like okay, but it's much harder to like be like I really have this vision of something I want to do and I'm going to basically fail nonstop. How do you continue to motivate yourself to keep going? It's like really at the end of the day you just have to love it, and the love is the main thing that I think you discover when you put that into the world. It comes back to you, and it doesn't always come back in the way that you imagine. It doesn't always come back in terms of success or like getting that, if you're an entrepreneur, like, I don't know, getting your seed funding or whatever it is. I think it comes back in terms of like a sense of like, I'm on the right track and I believe I should keep going and I'm learning and I'm growing. And it's a much deeper layer when you're doing it for you. And it's not as rewarding up front, but I like to think on the back end, it will be one day.
You've hit on so many points that sound like you speak from so much experience, and I feel like as a comedian who has to put themselves out there in person and online even, you're being vulnerable. You're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position because people can really easily boo you. And the more you show up, the more you build that muscle of growing that thick skin. Am I on the right track here when I say this, or did you have a different experience?
You're pursuing comedy or anything like that, you're constantly faced with rejection. So like that's just something you do early on. You just take on like, okay, I'm gonna go on stage and people are going to like not laugh or they're gonna hate me. And again, you're just doing it for you. And then when you scale that and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go do it on I'm gonna post something on the internet and maybe even have even a wider reach of people will see it and they still might hate you, but you just keep doing it because that's the process. It's a process of undoing. Like with comedy, really, or with anything, I think if you really want to go for it, if you're an entrepreneur and you see yourself, building a business from scratch, or if you're someone that's pursuing the arts, like a lot of the process is just undoing what you thought about, like all your preconceived notions about what it's going to be. Like it's the trick of it is to like not is to remove all the layers of the framework of what you thought you were, what you thought you brought to the table, and really just listen to the quiet sort of voice within that tells you what you actually are. And if you have the stamina to like accept that, I think most people, I don't mean this in a negative way. In my experience, I think most people just want to be like, they just prefer to be sheep in a way. I don't mean that in a negative way, but like they prefer to just like clock in, go to work, clock out, watch Netflix, drink 10 beers, go to bed, whatever. Like that's the cycle But if you want to stand out from that, if you want to break the cycle, so to speak, there's going to be a layer of constant rejection and failure because you're going against the flow, and that's going to feel weird. But there's a lot of freedom in when you lose the the perspective that everybody has to like what you're doing and everybody has to be on board and you feel like an idiot or you're humiliated when you can just kind of be free to be like the journey for me has been a journey to find like who am I, like how can I believe in myself wholly without external validation from people around me. And it's hard because you really have to dissolve all the things you thought you were and you have to believe, and it does require, I know I keep saying this, but it does require a level of faith that I think people underestimate. You have to sort of believe.
Yeah.
So while you're getting rejected and booed and you're failing, and you have to sort of on some level still believe, and that is very hard to conquer. But when you do, you're free. So I think that that parallels anything you're trying to do. It's one of the hardest things to do in life. But yeah, like in my life, like I'm rejection literally every day. Now it doesn't bother me anymore at all, and it's a good skill. It's a good to have because then I think the people that we see in life that are the most, that seem to me to be the most happy and successful, seems to me the most free. The most free of like concerns about what people are saying about them or thinking about them, and ultimately it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Nobody, I always tell myself that like, if you're in a position where you're trying to like start your own business, you're trying to pursue the arts in some way, you're doing your thing. Well, it doesn't really matter what everybody else thinks because I mean, obviously you need them to like your business or your art or whatever, but you don't, they would never do it. You know what I mean? Like they would just be in the pack. So here's a good way to sum all this up. My girlfriend at one point sent me a quote from like Theodore Roosevelt or something that was like, it's about the concept of the man in the arena. It's like, yeah, anybody can go to a stadium and spectate. Anybody can be in the crowd cheering and
Yeah.
screaming and booing, but the person in the arena, the one that's in there, is the one that commands the respect. You know what I mean? Like thousands and millions of people in that arena would not be the person standing there. And if you think you want to be that person, then you can't care about what thousands of people around you are thinking. You know what I mean? Like it really comes from within.
Yeah.
That journey to getting there, though, to be that person in the arena is not an easy thing because we're as humans, we want to be loved and accepted and liked and.
Yeah. We're social
But like I
beings.
said, you will be if you're free.
Yeah. No, before we continue, I want to take a moment to share something that connects directly to today's conversation. If you're an actor, performer, artist, creative entrepreneur, or someone who knows they are meant to be seen, heard, and expressed more fully, I wrote Take the Stage just for you. This book is not just about acting. It's about creative success, self-leadership, confidence, discipline, and learning how to treat your creative path like something worthy of structure, strategy, and belief. Because talent is powerful, but talent alone is not the whole business plan. Take the Stage is for the creative who is ready to stop waiting for permission, stop hiding behind perfection, and start showing up like their dreams actually matter. And even if you are not an actor, you are still invited into the conversation. You can join my inner circle for free, where I send weekly insights, reflections, creative lessons, business updates, and behind the scenes pieces from my own Rise Plus Rebel journey. So, if today's episode speaks to something in you, go explore Take the Stage and join the inner circle. The link is in the show notes. Now, let's get back into the episode. I think you brought up a lot of points. You're so fast. Tell me, how did comedy find you? Start there. Walk me through the journey. Because here's my experience with Andrew Ginsberg. When I first saw you were just so fully present, despite like you never shared your, I don't know, that sounds weird, but like you never shared your feelings, which is obvious. We're in corporate professional world, so no, we don't talk about
Yeah, what
kumbaya.
feelings?
We don't have feelings. Exactly, we're just robots. But like,
Right.
I've always saw you as somebody who was just so funny. You could literally just, you're a captivating presence, believe it or not. I know it's shocking to your
Thanks.
brain probably. So if you ever need to like get your ego pumped, call me. I'm happy to give you like a 5-minute motivational boost to remind you who Andrew
All right, I'll
Ginsberg
take
is.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to give those away. So I remember just seeing you as like, I don't know, in my head, I was like, he's already funny. He's already this big presence. Like,
Mm,
because you owned the room. You were already doing
mm,
that as a marketing manager. You were already doing that what a comedian would do, which is own the presence, kind of like what your girlfriend said, which has shared, which was incredible and very wise of her too. Is you are the center of this whatever the Coliseum or whatever, and everyone's watching you, but like they're in awe captivated and just waiting for the next thing because you just grabbed them by the balls and now you can do whatever you want with it. Like, that's how I saw you in the corporate world before I even knew. It was shocking to me when you said, "Oh yeah, I'm entertaining comedy clubs." I'm like, "Entertaining? What do you mean? You should be living there."
That's the thing, right? It's much easier in that sort of framework to like command like I appreciate all that for sure, but it's like, I had a very clear here's the thing, like I had a very clear sense of what I was supposed to be doing, right?
That's
Like
fair.
that for me that was like that job particularly at that time period, which I don't think any job would really be like that anymore because just during that time that was in the wave in San Francisco in 2014 where it was like we're all going to disrupt the world through tech, right? But now flash forward to 2026, it's like, oh, tech's ruining the world, actually. Nobody wants to hear that anymore. But like back then, it was like, oh, we're going to change the color of a button on the website and the world's going to change. And we were all like, that's what I mean by back then, I really drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And it was easy for me because I understood, like, when companies have like the mission statements or like this is what we're about.
Yes, I remember
You just
that.
have to bleed that.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's easy to say like I understood the role, right? Like it's like you're going to be the spokesperson and the advocate for these products. You're going to make everybody become included. I'm naturally a public speaker. That framework is all for me it was easy in that way. Like it was it was like somebody wrote the script and I knew how to play that part. Like it was anybody could, in my opinion. If during that time too, it was like, here's what we want to do. We want to sell this. You need to be excited about this and just make everybody, get really riled up about X. But when you do it on your own, there is no script. There's no
You're the scriptwriter,
there's no
producer, director, the
Yeah,
owner, the
right.
CEO.
And you have to keep changing it because you don't know what you're doing. And there's no mission statement and there's no role to fit into. And then what you're left with is just you. And then you're like, oh man, like who am I? Because it's easy to play a role. Like it's easy to I always joke around with people that like your CEO, like, I have friends that work in like big companies and stuff like that. And it's like your CEO, when they text you or DM you and ask or Slack you or whatever and ask you for something, you're like, oh my gosh, like I have to stop everything I'm doing and I have to get the numbers for this person. But it's like, if I saw that person in real life, I could just call them a loser on the subway and laugh at them. Like they're not in the real world. They're not without the framework of the company. They're just some schmuck on the subway. Like I don't care about them. They have no commanding power over me. I don't know them. But like when you're in that sort of world, it's very easy to play a role. That's why they call these jobs roles. It's like I'm going to be a role. But when you're on your own, you're defining your own role. And the thing is that you learn as you find your own way and unpeel your ego is that the role that you're meant to play is inside of you. It's really hard to quiet down all the voices around you to listen to what it is. And it's an uphill battle. It's full of pain and rejection, and it's different twists and turns where you always realize you're wrong, and you're going to get humbled nonstop. But like I said, my overarching message is, I think if you want to define your own path in life, you have to have a little faith that you'll get there, but it's going to be hard. I think that's why all myths that talk about this kind of stuff, like sort of the Greek myth, I forget who it is, Odysseus or some shit, like, or I don't know if you can say it on here, Odysseus or something, climbing up the mountain only to fall back down again each morning. It's never going to. It's about the journey, not the destination so much.
sure.
That's what I'm trying to
For
say.
sure.
You're on a journey of self discovery to discover what's already inside of you. So it's like it's not something new. Whereas when you're breaking out of that framework, yeah, it was easy at work to be like, this is what it's like. Literally, they'll be like, here's the deliverables. Here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Here's the job description.
That's
It's a
true.
script.
That's true. I love
So
what you
if it was easy, this is much harder because there is no. It's just trial and error and failure, and then what happens is you'll get like a win,
Yes.
and then that win has to carry you for like 10 more years because you won't get another one for a while.
Oh my goodness. So, speaking of all that,
Yeah,
how do you stay grounded? How do you stay grounded on the daily? Because this doesn't end. This cycle
Yeah.
of doubt, that fear of really fear and doubt, I think those are the most ones. And then you have to address the limiting beliefs that you were conditioned and programmed to believe. You have to, pull back those layers and start disengaging, disidentifying with that identity because it no longer defines who you are. How do you,
Totally.
all of that, what's your practice? How do you stay grounded?
This is gonna sound super hippie and stuff, but like it's actually really simple. And I've been through a lot with this, but it's just like what I'm starting to realize about life as I get older is you're not going to get anything. Like you're not gonna the wins and the sense of joy and self-satisfaction comes from the process of doing it. Like you're never going to get what you want in a way, because every time I've gotten what I want, which I have, like I'm talking a lot of negative, like how hard it all is, and it is hard. But there have been times where I've gotten exactly what I wanted. Like I worked towards something and I got it in stand up, you know? And then all that happens is your brain goes, great, I did it. And then you're back to that feeling of, well, what do I do now? Now it's like another thing. There's always going to be like, but the thing is, the way you stay grounded is you have to realize that there is nowhere to go. It's just this experience that you're having. The all of it, the ups, the downs, the lows, the wins, the pain, the joy, it's all part of this like mixture of experience that makes it worthwhile. So you just have to love it. It really, at the center of all of it is the through line of love. Like if you can find a way to love what you're doing holistically, even when it sucks, that's how you win, because there is no external, like life's not going to be like, you did it, you achieved life, you won, you win. It's like it's just this whole thing. So for me, I learned to like just kind of enjoy the process. Like I think about people that do crafts. This is like a good metaphor for me. Like for example, someone who brews a great beer. Like I don't drink beer anymore, but like, if you know people who drink beer, brewing beer is like a meticulous process of finding the right hops and adding the water matters and the temperature, and and that's a multi-week, sometimes multi-month process that that you get the beer. But like what happens after you get the beer? Like you drink it and then you have to start over with a different process. But if you love the process, it's not so much about what comes out. It's the joy in making the vat, the joy of like tasting it along the way, of making changes. You have to love that. That's really that. There's no other way to do anything, in my opinion, because I've never like achieved something and been like, well, it's all good now. Like now my life is good. I think a lot of people do that. They go, if I get this,
Yeah.
if I get that,
Yes.
if I get here, then my life will be good. Just wait till I get an apartment, or wait till I get this, then my life will be good. It's like, it's not, it has to be like good now. You have to find a way to love it today in its bad state. Like where you're at now, you have to love it now, and it will grow. And I find that when I lose the like, if I stop, when you lose the, I'm seeking like a, money, or I want this kind of return on everything I'm doing. When you lose that, it comes naturally, because when you put love into things, I really think like the universe loves you back. So it's like you put out, because like it's all like you put out a positive signal, you get one back. It
100%.
doesn't always look like what you think it's going to look like. And that's also part of the journey too, is like what you think you wanted, you sometimes find is not what you wanted. And that's okay too. That's all part of but to me, that's how I stay grounded, is I just remember that like none of this really matters. It's not heading anywhere. I just do it because I do it. It's like there's a great Ram Dass quote that I use all the time. That's just like a caterpillar doesn't say like, okay, today I'm going to become a butterfly now. It just happens. It's just becoming. Like, and that's all this all really is. This whole experience is just a state of becoming. You know what I mean?
I got
That's a simple way to put it.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm 100%. I don't know how your friends are, what your group of circle friends, but I'm one of
I
those.
have no
I
friends.
know. Me too.
Yeah.
Hey. Yay. It's nice to
No, I'm
it's
just kidding.
nice to meet another fellow. No, I fired all mine.
Jeez.
You know, but no, but I think for me, when I first started to pursue acting and just my creative career 6 years ago, I had to also very similar journey of just like overcoming those limiting beliefs that held me back. And the way I kept grounded, and to this day, when that anxiety kicks in throughout the day or throughout the week, I have to sit down and really pause and look at my surroundings, look at my blessings, and come from a place of gratitude, because place of gratitude of just like acknowledging and calling it out and saying, look where I live, look where I am, look what I'm doing, look what I have. Then immediately you start to see all of the blessings that you once actually prayed for many years ago, many times ago. But I also, another thing that I've been recently trying to calm my nerves on is like what you said, like once you get that thing, you're just gonna get over it and you're like, yeah, whatever, and you're gonna move on to the next thing. Like humans are never really satisfied.
Yeah.
And it
No.
sucks because I feel like we're also almost always conditioned to suffering. It's like in our human
Hmm.
nature, and learning how to not suffer.
Yeah. Well, suffering comes, in my opinion, suffering kind of comes from like you have, like, I always try to remind myself that you have two choices in life with everything that you do. You can come from a place of fear, or you can come from a place of love. So, like, everything that's presented to you and every obstacle that you have, you can approach it with fear and anxiety and stress and sadness, or you can come from a place of, I'm just going to love this and lean into it. And when you choose fear, that's when you get into that sort of place where you know what I mean? You're full of fear. And so, it's not going to it's not going to return the way you want it to, because you're coming from you're not really wholly present. You're coming from a place of fear. So I think the way to reduce some of that is to just remember, like, everything I'm doing in life, can I somehow do it with love? Because a lot of people approach things with like a lot of like, what happens if I do this? What if I do this? What if happen? What if I lose everything? What if, oh my God. And then if you, okay, but like, that's never going to net. It's never going to give you what you want, because you're stressing about control. Whereas if you come from a place of love, you're just saying like, I'm open to what happens, but I'm going to show up in a way that is like honest, and I'm going to like just, and love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, what you put out is what you get back. This kind of reminds me, have you heard of Abraham Hicks?
Mm-mm.
I,
No.
I think, I don't know if you would be into that woo woo stuff, but like she really,
No, I like woo-woo
okay,
stuff. I'm a
great.
woo-woo guy.
So
Yeah.
you're a woo-woo guy. Okay. I don't know how much you go into or how much you know about manifesting, but she goes in really deep about manifesting and the process of how to just call in whatever you want in a very easy way. And the very first thing you have to overcome is really yourself, your thinking, your negative thinking
Yeah.
specifically, and then switching that and really focusing on the positive feeling of it. And yeah, that's her school of thought. And I'm gifting this to you, Andrew, and to all my listeners.
Thank
I've
you.
been
I will check it out.
Yeah, I've been listening to it. It was interesting. I listened to it for like a month on end a couple of years ago, which then really helped get my commercial real estate business started. And now I'm
Mhm.
once again like really listening to it every single day for the last couple of weeks, and the shift is happening, and it's always just within you. All you have to do is position yourself in a way where you're shifting your mindset without really doing all the heavy lifting. And
Yeah, of course. I always say that all change, at least in my life, all change is mental. Like, you don't have to change anything. You really don't have to, like, you can change your furniture, you whatever, but like, you can always change external things. You can get a haircut, you can do this and that, but it's like it's just a mental change. Like, you go from, like I said, fear to love, or yes or no to yes, then everything changes. It's all your perspective. I heard a quote once that I said a lot on podcasts over the years, like this, where it's like, when you're in a dark cloud, for example, and you look around you and all you see is gray and darkness, and you go, "This is what life is. It's dark." But really, if you zoomed out above the cloud, you would see a blue sky all around you. You just have to find a way to step out of the cloud. If you were able to realize you were in a cloud and remove yourself from the cloud and see you'd be like, "What am I doing? I was just in a cloud. Nothing has changed. Your perspective has changed,
yeah,
and now everything will change."
that's true.
So I think that that's important. Now, you're manifesting stuff. I do find that when the things that I have manifested some things, but not deliberately, where I go, I'm going to like manifest, but it's like things have happened, and I look back after the fact and go, wow, I really wanted that, and now it happened. Have you have you manifested anything lately, Aya? What's bubbling up for you?
There's a lot that's bubbling up for me. That I rather not talk about. But like I had a very rough earlier start to the year, and now almost 6 months later, I'm now finally like getting the love that I know I deserve, but I was just like so closed off. I was in my own cloud, and now I'm like shifting the perspective of like pulling out and enjoying the actual view and not identifying with the cloud. And as soon as I change the shift of like, I'm ready for romance to enter my life. I'm ready to just come from a place of love, no more grief, no more anger. And things have started to shift. And I started to make new
Hmm.
friends. I started to make new acquaintances, met new people. And it's been something that I've been very grateful for and ready.
That's great.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I mean, that's a big part of it too, is like, in my opinion, in life, is like a big challenge that we have is like letting things go, like dropping the baggage. You know what I mean? Just like leaving it behind, just being like, I'm letting it go. Just like, then you're free, and that can be hard because you carry all these things and you don't realize that you're carrying them. But you get to a point where it's like, you realize like, I could just put this down and stop carrying this, and then I'll be light and I can run around and I'll be free. So I think that's definitely a good thing. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, look, my journey with like stand up, it's been very like, it's not a linear path. It's like jagged. I've had to, because I've been trying to live without a normal job the past couple of years, but it's hard. So it's like, I'm lucky because I can always do a freelance project, or if I need money, like I'll be able to like dip back in somehow. I actually started a side business that's not related to comedy that is like pretty funny. But it's like, so for me now, it's just about like, I just try to, I find myself just like, I don't have like a timeline for like a lot of people I know that do comedy and this kind of stuff. They're like, by the time I'm this age, I hope I achieve this. I hope I get on this show. I hope I do that. I'm just more like, how can I fill my day with things that I love to do or that I think are cool, unique, exciting, interesting? And that's to me how you manifest it, how you build the life that you want. Because like I said, I just try to come from a place of like love. I don't do things I don't love to do. So even if I have to do like something for money, I try to love it.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
no,
know?
that's important.
Yeah,
It's so interesting because yeah, there have been times in my entrepreneurial journey where I was like, shit, she's about to go down. I need to pay for the bills or something. And again, it really comes from a position of how are you positioning yourself to create the abundance into your life? So one of the things talking about manifesting is I've always manifested financial freedom and prosperity, abundance. But prior to that, I didn't even know what manifesting was and everything. So going back to your point earlier when you were saying what you put out is what you'll receive. And so when I was in a very challenging time in my life looking for external work while I'm pursuing entrepreneurship, the position I was putting out or the energy I was putting out was survival, was desperation. And so guess what I got back? Zilch.
yeah.
Because, I'm functioning from fear rather than from joy. And so again, it was a lot of internal work of like, how can I shift myself so that I am never having to address the survival belief that was literally ingrained in me. It's a journey of its own, for sure.
Well, it's funny that you say that because it's like, yeah, like with like for example, I'll tell you a little bit about my side business. Like it's funny because like you know, it's like you get to a point you're like, okay, making this much money doing stand up. I do these like road gigs and all this stuff, but I need some extra cash. I need some money to come in. And it's like, what do I do? Do I do I go work in a store? Do I could put a framework together for like a business model? I can do all this stuff. But then it's just like I just had this like funny idea. It's like I had no intention of like starting any sort of. Now I'm not going to claim that what I'm about to say is a full blown business, but I I had no desire to do anything entrepreneurial at all besides with my stand up. But I noticed like here in New York City, and I know it's much different in where you live in South Carolina, but here in New York City, marijuana is really legal here now. As you remember, like in the Northern California days, but like it's like super legal,
What
right?
is?
Weed.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sorry. I missed
Yeah,
that part.
but there's a reason for that.
Okay.
So it's legal. So there's dispensaries everywhere,
Okay.
and there never used to be. So I noticed that a lot of them were being built in front of nursing homes and senior citizen homes. And I thought to myself, I was like, I wonder if these old people in these homes know what this is, and like that they could use it to treat like cancer or like arthritis or any of their problems, like not even just stuff that gets you high, like
Yeah.
CBD or like
Yeah.
just some of the pain relief stuff. I just bet that I was like, I'm betting that there's a lack of education. So I came up with this idea to like do a workshop in senior citizen homes where I would educate old people on the benefits of weed or like break myths about it and like just
I
take questions.
I love it.
And then I put that together. I called it Cannabis Curious Seniors. And I emailed like 50 of these centers in the city. And a lot of them come back to me. So now I do a couple of these presentations all the time. And that was like, and then so it's like, it just kind of came in, money came in when I needed it that way. But I wasn't trying to squeeze an
Yeah.
orange of like getting it. It just came up. It
Wow.
just came up out of pure curiosity. That's what I mean. If you're curious, if you do things out of love,
Yeah.
it'll love you. The universe will love you back. That's how the manifestation stuff works for me. Like that actually came through when I needed it.
That's
You know?
beautiful. I had to lean back because that was just so much wisdom thrown at me from the screen. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah,
That you
yeah.
you've inspired me because I've always wanted to do something similar, not cannabis though.
Yeah,
Not
yeah, yeah.
cannabis related.
Me neither. It wasn't something I like wanted to be involved with. Like that's what I mean. Like it really came out. It was just a curious thought that I had. Like I wonder if the people living in the senior citizen home know what this is, and if they're curious about it, and then I use ChatGPT to scrape all the emails of the coordinators for these types of speaking events in the city, and emailed like 50 of them, and then like 25 of them or something like wrote back like right away. They're like, actually, this is a hot topic.
Wow.
And so then it was like, okay, so I use ChatGPT to create like a learning course, like help me learn everything I can about like how it works and the rules. And then I became like a self-certified expert. And then
That's amazing.
went in there and just kind of was like, here's my presentation. It's like super funny, da, 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 da. But at the time when I was doing that, I needed extra cash. It just kind of came in just out of being curious. So it's like I think a lot of people just like if you keep trying to like bang the hammer on something and force it to come out, it's just not going to. Like you just gonna have to approach things from a place of love and curiosity. And then I do think it does work out. Sometimes it's hard,
Yeah.
but it does.
Yeah. No,
You just have to show up.
that's amazing. How long have you had this business, this startup?
Just a couple months, just a couple months. Yeah, and I
Congrats.
don't take it that seriously. I probably put like just a few hours of work into it every week. So it's like it's very like I'm like half like because it's not like my core like what I'm doing, but it is nice, and I'm thinking about formalizing it more. Like I like getting involved with like others like outside of New York, like New Jersey, Connecticut, like way more opportunities in the suburbs to do this kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And you could even create, that's one of the things that is becoming real, and this is digital real estate. If you create an online course, you can just start selling that, and that could be your passive
totally
income.
could do that too.
So
Yeah, so tell your listeners they can go to cannabiscuriousseniors.com. It's a brand new website with some glitches on it. But if you're interested in this type of presentation, I'll come down and educate 90-year-olds on the benefits of pain relief through weed.
I love it. I love it. And I actually met a young lady who was 74 years old last year who was saying like,
Yikes.
"Oh, I was just introduced to weed 4 years ago and I love it." And I was like, "God bless you." It's
That's
not
what I'm saying. They
like
don't know.
you've missed out 70 years of the best. But that's okay. You caught up. Now you have the best time of your life. That's great. Like keep
Yeah.
exploring. Yeah, no, you
Well, old people have a lot more pain and stuff than, so that
exactly.
was just like the
Yeah,
thought like in Cali, when I lived out in SF and it was like, yeah, there's medical, but it's like all the people taking it didn't have any medical use cases, but they actually do in these seniors homes. Like a lot of them are taking cancer medication, stuff that suppresses your appetite, neurological problems or like nerve issues and like certain compounds in cannabis, like especially CBD can be really beneficial for
yeah.
that. So it's like there's no education about any of this.
No, but
Education's been suppressed for the last 100 years in this country. So
exactly.
it's like now is a really good time to, in general, I'm not just,
Yeah, yeah. Oh no,
and it's still suppressed.
it is. And, think of it this way. If you were a pharmaceutical who's making bank selling this,
Yeah,
like multiple prescriptions to one individual, one senior citizen, and then here's a little schmuck from New York by the name of Andrew Ginsberg comes in and swoops up and
that's
says,
right.
here, smoke weed
Yeah,
instead. I think of it as a great,
exactly.
heroic God's work. So keep on doing it, Andrew.
You got to keep on trucking, man.
That's
It's all
right.
good.
That's right. But what's interesting, going back to your point, when you're coming from a position of service and love and the heart, these ideas that are planted in you through the divine, through however you want to call the source that is coming to you, because it's there for you, it's placed for you for a reason. And I'm just so glad, like, you're one of the greatest examples of just like follow that bliss, be curious, and see where it takes
Yeah.
you. That's amazing.
And you have to, and one last note on that, you have to show up. Like the most mystical thing about me, I would say, is that I believe in this concept of like the muse. So there's this like greater creative energy flowing through everything, and you are a vessel for the larger creative energy. You can call it God, you can call it inspiration, whatever you want to call it. But if like say I want to be a great comedian, well, I'm not going to get that great idea or that great thing that I'm going to create unless I show up every day and work on the craft and make myself a vessel to receive the inspiration. Like Michael, for example, like Michael Jackson believed that like I had read this story that I thought was funny that he came up with an idea for a song in the middle of the night and he had to write it because he was worried that if he didn't write it, Prince would write it. Like because it's all in the creative ether. Like and he got the signal to write the song and make it. But if he missed the opportunity because if he just went back to sleep or snoozed it, then the cloud of creative essence would move on and it would strike Prince. And I kind of that's how I feel about it. Is like all these signals and airwaves and creativity and ideas are in the greater consciousness. They already exist. We are like receivers, like radio receivers for this higher creativity. And so many times during the day, I get thoughts like I should do this or I should do that or I should do this, but a lot of them I don't act on, and then they disappear and somebody else will do it. So it's like you have to make yourself in service of this muse, of this greater creative energy. And if you can do that so that you're like a really clear receiver for the signal and then you act on it, then that's how this all kind of works in my opinion. Like Paul McCartney claims he wrote his one of the most iconic songs ever, Yesterday by the Beatles. He wrote it in his sleep. Like the melody came to him in a dream and then he woke up and played it and it became one of the most like
Wow.
probably considered one of the greatest songs ever written. That's because he was in tune with this larger creative energy. Like nothing, it's not by happenstance when you hear about that where people go, oh, did you hear this like quirky story about some famous person where like this thing came to them in like a dream or like a dream state or like randomly on a walk they thought of X? It's like, yeah, but you if you're really in tune with with the larger creative energy around you, then you become a vessel for that sort of thing. I think that's kind of important. That's part of my core beliefs about the world.
I think that's brilliant. I think that was a really great. I'm probably going to implement that core belief. Thank you for sharing that insight, Andrew.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
dropped a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
gems today. Thank you.
Yeah, like it's all out there. It's like, like there's like a creative force in the world, and when you get those ideas or inspiration, it's just because like you've really fine-tuned your signal to receive it, and then acting on it is the most important thing because it passes. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times in my life, even in corporate life, any kind of life, where I've had this idea that I thought was an outstanding idea and I never did anything about it. And then like how many we've all been through this, like, oh, somebody else did that or somebody else made it. Yeah, because it just exists. It's just trying to find the way to manifest itself in reality through us as the vessel,
That's
you know?
beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, that's a really good point. There's times where I'll have a thought. A recent one was like, do the easy things first. And I just wrote it down on a post-it note, and it just keeps popping in my face throughout the day. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do the easy things first. I'm going to do the easy things first. And I realized over the days as I was looking at the post-it note is just because it's easy for you, Aya, doesn't mean that it's easy for somebody else. Your easy is actually somebody else's hard.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So like for me, I have to remind myself, I don't do that type of advertised productivity hack where they say, do the hard thing first. Like, I can't. I
Yeah.
like to ease it into my day and do the easy things first. Like,
Same.
yeah, it brings me joy. The little things in life. Yeah.
I agree. I'm not really into that. Well, we talked about this years ago, where I'm not really into this whole like, wake up and just like
Yeah.
this whole like CEO type culture. The older I get, the more I just want to live life. Like I chill more than I ever have, honestly.
That's great.
And in a sense where like it's like I still want to get things done and make things and do things but it's like I used to be way more like I got to wake up and here's my deliverables for the day. I just don't. I don't see myself living that way for life. So it's like it's really just about having love for what you're doing and letting it all happen.
I think
If you tell yourself that there's a life for me that's meant to start manifesting and all I have to do is show up, it's a much better model than saying like I have to squeeze every possible outcome, financial and whatever, out of life every single minute of the day so I can be happy one day. Instead, because like really you have a choice to be happy right this second.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I think about that.
You just drop the mic. Andrew
That's it.
Ginsberg, how can my listeners find you if they want more of you?
Yes.
Tell us.
They can go to my Instagram.com and they can find me on I'm at This Is Ginsberg, Ginsberg, like the judge. They can go to andrewginsberg.com and they can also go on my YouTube channel and subscribe. There's going to be some new content coming out. It has been pretty dormant for a while, but it's coming. So yeah, find me, reach out.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you having me on the pod here.
Thank you, Andrew. You've been such an incredible soul to be friends with, and it's been an honor
Likewise.
to watch you just thriving. From my perspective, I know it may not feel like that on your end, but like you've been thriving by posting online, sharing, just being yourself. There was a video that I just loved where you were just like boom, boom, boom. The way you responded to that guy about coffee.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to link that
yeah.
into those episodes.
Some of those people that are like, don't talk to me until I had coffee. I'm like that now.
I've been drinking coffee all week.
Cool, dude. He's like one of these guys that's always quitting coffee. I hate people who quit coffee. Who cares?
I'm not
Dude,
quitting.
don't drink coffee.
I'm not quitting.
It's coffee. It's not meth.
Hey, I was just filling you in on my week, Ginsberg.
I know so many guys though, like people like you, like bro dudes that are like, yeah, I'm off coffee. It's like it's coffee. Who gives a shit?
Fuck up. Well, I mean, it gives me anxiety.
Yeah,
never mind. You should stop that.
Coffee gives you anxiety. Wait till you get to the real world, kid. Gonna have a lot bigger problems than coffee. I'll tell you that.
So that
Yeah,
people-
dude, that was an old clip. It was weird. It was like from 4 years ago, but it just started going viral one day.
Really? It's amazing.
yeah.
Well, this is like, this just kind of shows like keep showing up, because that what you created 4 years ago will take off 4 years later. So keep creating, keep being yourself, and keep evolving. You're doing an incredible job. Thank you so much for your presence, for your friendship, and thank you for the listeners. We'll see you on the next one.